Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders with Marketing Huddle, and today we have with us Glenn Livingston with Growth Acceleration Systems. Welcome to the program, Glenn.
Well, thank you so much. It's a delight to be here. I was looking forward to it.
Super. Well, hey, give me a little bit of background on yourself, your entrepreneurial journey, and what led you to form the Growth Acceleration Systems.
Well, I'm a psychologist by training, and I actually practiced clinical psychology for several years on Long Island. But because I did not have children and I never commuted, I had a dual career. And I had married a marketer. I'm divorced now, but I married a marketer. And she was consulting for Fortune 100 companies doing advertising research, mostly focus groups and interviews. And she had not developed a way to verify the qualitative insight that she had. And so I had a strong background in quantitative modeling, and I started doing the consulting there too. Long story short, I spent about 15 years selling about $30 million of corporate consulting like that. Got tired of it when they asked me to fly to Japan and back for a 1-hour meeting within 36 hours. And yeah, and so I wound up doing, like, developing my own publishing business and then doing a lot of consulting for small businesses and eventually developing a business training program via growthacceleration.com, and that brings us mostly to the present.
You know, what interests me with that overview is I love when you have someone that has done large, major corporation work, whether it's being an intrapreneur or an entrepreneur with as a consultant like you were. But when you can take those formulas that work large scale and bring them down to the small and medium-sized businesses, I think that's a really interesting combination. So what my question would be, what are a couple strategies that you were able to bring from the large corporate world to a smaller, medium-sized business? And then on the other hand, what are some things that small and medium-sized businesses have opportunity, like because they're smaller and nimble and can pivot quicker, that they have it kind of over the bigger corporation?
Cool. I think that's a good question for David also, because he's been a hedge fund consultant for a long time with applied a lot of the method to small businesses too. So I would say that the first place that I started porting systems that I was using with large companies over to small companies had to do with the marketing research, because most small businesses don't really talk. They don't have someone talking to their buyers to find out about the experience and what else they can help them with. And if they do, it's a simple survey. They barely research their prospects, and they just don't know how to analyze that. And so one of the best things that I could do is, most people don't understand, for example, that the gold in a survey is not really in the question themselves, but between the questions. So it's an understanding how the different segments of people answer differently and what the relationship is between, people who like cheeseburgers and people who like the Atkins diet or something like that. And so just teaching them simple things like how to get a more complex survey done and how to cross-tab it and look at which segments are likely to have the most responsive customers and how do you organize your advertising to attract that. That made a really big difference. And I'd say the other thing that makes a huge difference is cash flow forecasting and like actuarial business modeling. What I mean by that is most businesses will buy advertising until they're no longer breaking even on the first month, because they figure their credit card is due after 30 days and they don't want to be losing money. And so if they get a front-end product that they can buy advertising with, with that 30 days of cash flow, then they'll do that. But because that's how the majority of the market behaves, there's a tremendous opportunity for an advertiser with deeper pockets and longer time horizons. In order to do that, you have to really model out what percentage of people who buy your front-end product are also going to buy the back-end product, and cross-sell and upsell, and over what period of time, and how does that impact your cash flow, and so how much can you really afford to buy if you want to be, if you want an ROI of 72% by month number 6, what should you really be buying to make that happen, and how do you maximize that cash flow curve? And so if you just introduce a little bit of spreadsheeting, and typically we have a spreadsheet template that we work with them with, and we show them how to do it. So they don't have to do a lot of work to make it happen. But if you can introduce that kind of thinking and put it all into a spreadsheet and then say, oh, okay, I'm really confident in these numbers, so I see this cash flow curve has to dip until month number 3, but then I break even, and then I get to 72% by month number 6. Well, now I can buy a lot more customers than everybody else in the market, because I can see the bigger picture. And they're frightened of it. So I'm thinking of things like an insurance company would, or like an actuary would, rather than just an accountant who's trying to not have it lose money in month number 1. And it's those kinds of things, and some of the we'll talk more about merchant accounts later, I guess, but some of the opportunities to move money around less expensively and make sure you have an opportunity for growth, and some of the deals that the larger companies can get actually can be made available to smaller companies if you know who to talk to and how to talk to them. So,
the spreadsheet and the calculations and the number side of it, I think, can make people's eyes glaze over. But one thought comes to mind is part of what you provide, or in part of your spreadsheet, is an analysis of the lifetime value of a client for a firm. Because I think a lot of people, you mentioned the break even after month 1 or whatnot, and I think that's a trigger that people don't realize, that they look at it just as an expense per se, not as an investment. And when you can look at it as the cost of acquisition for a new client is X, and we might have just broken even, maybe, but the long term and stimulating that relationship is where the true value comes in. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Well, I mean, most businesses are ignoring money on the table with their customers because they don't have enough offers or enough back-end products. It's much more expensive to acquire a customer than to keep a customer. Mm-hmm. And if you talk to the customers and you figure out what else they need, if they know, like, and trust you already, there are other things that they will buy from you. And, and even when businesses are maximizing that, they're not necessarily tracking it, so they don't have confidence in it. And and so you really do have to go back and look at the percentages and make estimates, and then adjust your estimates against the real data as it comes in. But if you're willing to do that work, which in my experience takes a month or so, then you have a power that nobody else does in the market. So I don't know if I'm answering your...
And once you do that pre-work, that strategy work, so I would suspect that sometimes the implementation of it doesn't have to be super hard, in the sense that what processes are already in place for that business. And if you're talking about an upsell or cross-sell, having something with your order fulfillment email or process to say, oh, you bought X, a lot of people have also bought Y, would you like us to add this, or something to that effect. Is that something you work with clients on as well, to identify the opportunity, but then also where you can fold it into the processes that already exist so they don't feel like, it's some overarching burden?
Yeah, I mean, one of the drop-dead easiest things to do is right in the shopping cart, right after they check out. Most carts have an opportunity to have them do a one-click upsell. Mm-hmm. And if you have something in your arsenal that would either speed up the results that they're buying the original product for, or get them more of the results, or enhance the results in some way. Like if people are buying a product to save time, and you can save them even more time if they get level 2 of the product, or they get this other add-on product. And then you offer them a significant discount if they buy right away. you're talking about adding a half a page of text, maybe a couple of images, and an offer. And you might be increasing the transaction value by 15 or 20% overall. So it's
and I love that because it's something that's already happening. You already did the work to get that sale. And in your example, it's, they're buying from your shopping cart, whatever that widget may be. Well, they already are there. They already made the decision. They've got their credit card in there, and one extra little piece, whether it's a, one-click upsell like you mentioned, or what if, and I'll pose this to you, maybe from the brainstorm masterminding kind of a aspect. What if that product or service that they're just getting ready to buy, what if you as the owner had set up a strategic alliance with some other organization, and right there on that order form, maybe you tested a one-click upsell as compared to maybe an affiliate referral over to another similar product that would be going hand in hand, but then you didn't have to fulfill. So all of a sudden now here is, this order coming in, and you're saying, we've got a relationship with XYZ, and they've got a perfect complementary product. Here's where it is. And maybe then that becomes, of course, not to deter them from the cart, but once that transaction is done. So I love that mindset there that you're mentioning, and it's kind of like lost opportunity. It's money that's there, you're just not taking advantage of.
Exactly. The page right after the sale is an enormously valuable piece of real estate.
Mm-hmm.
And
so you can do the one-click upsell at the cart. Okay, you don't want to distract them from not buying at all, but then the thank you page or the email, delivery could be, the other aspect, because I think you could get so excited about, offering this and that and the other that then they could get distracted and not do anything because a confused mind doesn't buy.
A confused mind says no. Yeah. And you don't necessarily have to have something that you deliver. You've earned more value in the trust that it took to get someone to take out their credit card and enter it in and make a purchase. There's more value in that customer than you recognize. And I love what you're saying about finding dropship or affiliate opportunities so that you don't have to add complex operations. It doesn't have to be a 2-month project. And in a lot of markets.
Well, and if you set that relationship up the right way, then that organization is doing the same thing for you in their order fulfillment, and it's really just a neat symbiotic relationship. I mean, I'm sure that that was just an idea that I had. It's nothing new, and even the old J. Abraham kind of teachings is the same kind of a concept. But I think it's when we're talking about maximizing opportunities with things that are already happening. You don't have to start from scratch and expand your organization and think, wow, we got to start a new division. We have to hire. No, this is just stuff that's already happening. How it reminds me of back in my MBA days of learning about McDonald's, and when they started asking, would you like fries with that, or would you like an apple pie with that? The person was already at the counter. They already were getting ready to pay. And that one question boosted their profit by 30% or 33% because they're like, yeah, add that in. Pure profit.
Something a little more advanced is that even if they say no, you can say, well, would you like something else?
Yeah.
You want to try to take over? Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. So what do you think are some threats to business expansion when a business is thinking about these kind of things? What are some hurdles or threats that they're going to have to deal with?
David, do you want to take that one?
Sure. The threats to the business are numerous. Normally, it centers around customer service. And for a lot of people that grow very, very fast, that's the first problem that they have. Systems, customer service, not servicing their customers well. And that's a big problem. I don't know if you remember back in the day with Dell computers. They grew very, very fast, and they had very, very bad customer service, major backlash. They lost a lot of market share, and it was a big problem. So the other thing, too, is obviously funding. You with an MBA, you know about the funding. People literally running out of money to keep the business going as they're expanding, as they're buying more inventory, or even opening up, in some cases, offices or servers or more employees. So that's another thing that's a major cause for concern. And in our aspect, merchant accounts are a serious problem as well for people growing very, very fast. because banks can shut down a merchant account when you have exponential growth and you're not working with the right bank. They can actually shut you down and hold all of your funds, which is a big problem in itself.
Yeah, I agree, and I think not only making the right decision on the merchant account, but I don't know whether you guys get into this or not, but I know that there are organizations or consulting that will come in and say, let's take a look at your merchant account to see if there's, leakage or opportunity to save or change. Same with a lot of processes in a business. Let's look at your long distance, your power, all of those things. And to me, it's so interesting to think, if you go into a business and you say, let's quadruple sales, all of a sudden that could be a big upheaval to a process. But if you say, let's take a look at what you do in this moment and not do anything different except could we save a little here, tweak a little here, and that could be, 15, 20% more to the bottom line without even thinking of expanding, but it acts like expanding because it's pure money to the bottom line.
You're one of the few people that really understands that. So if you can save 0.5% at every transaction because your business type is really not matched with the underwriter that you were supposed to be matched with, which is usually the case because the merchant account industry is very cookie cutter and the people don't really talk to multiple possibilities. And so if that's the case and you're losing 0.5% on every transaction, well, that's 0.5% off the top. That's not 0.5% of your profit. That's 0.5% off the top. And so if your margin is 20%, I mean, you're losing some pretty significant bucks there. And you're doing, $100,000 a month or even $20,000 a month. It really starts to add up, and you can look at the 5-year value or the 10-year value of that and what it does to your profitability. Those kind of things can make a really big difference. And so, yes, that's exactly what we do. We analyze people's statements, and we figure out the very specific kind of business that they're in and which industry underwriters are more likely to give them a better deal because they're comfortable with that kind of risk, and match them up and help them get approved, and then help them come up with an expansion strategy so that they don't suddenly engineer a growth spurt only to have their account shut down, like happened to David.
It's interesting. I wonder if you would confirm this, but you probably work with clients that you see quite a few opportunities with on expansion strategies, and that comes with a price tag, let's say. And maybe if you were to say, rather than writing a check for X, what if we could find that money? And you kind of let it sit with them, and they could say, okay, well, you explain that we can do X, Y, and Z, expansion, marketing, whatever strategy. It's going to cost X. Wait a minute, you're saying what if we could find it and it's not really a cost, it's just, recovered funds? Well, then if you can implement some of these things if we restructured or if we fix this or plug this up, now all of a sudden, without doing anything extra, you found that money, that goes to this expansion strategy. And then at that point, you're really building on that momentum because now you're doing the expansion things without having holes in the bucket.
I like the way you think.
Yeah, so it's like, hey, I ought to be a salesperson for your company. No, but I just love that strategic thinking process. And when you're talking to the right company, if you're talking to a solopreneur that started yesterday, you could never have that conversation. They don't have anything to work with. But you talk to a company that has these things in place like we're mentioning, boy, it probably wouldn't take much for you to go, we can do this and let's talk. And so I just love that mindset. So, of course, we could probably talk for about 3.5 more hours on, many things because we are just scratching the surface. But if someone is hearing this and thinking, I wonder what could be an opportunity for me, what's the best way that they could reach out to you guys and learn more about your organization and your offerings?
Oh, we have a little form at merchantaccountwizard.com, and if you go fill out the form, it'll take you a second. We'll get in contact and arrange to do a free rate analysis and look over your statement and see where the leakages are, and talk to you about the kind of underwriter you should be having. And most people, we are able to find money on the table. Most people were able to find money on the table. Some people are having a lot of trouble with chargebacks, and we can help them, come up. Some people can't even process because they're having trouble with a past merchant account, and we can help get that fixed relatively quickly. And we can have a little strategic consultation to talk about what your expansion strategy might be. We're merchantaccountwizard.com.
Excellent. Well, thank you, gentlemen. I really enjoyed our talk. Love the way that you think and do business, and wish you all the best. And thanks for coming on the show today.
Hey, thank you very much. Have a great day.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneursradio.com.